Bobby Johnson, well done, Manchester United.
Beckham into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has done it! And it's half saved it! United again! Ready! A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie!
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm Nick.
I'm Colm.
And I'm Ashwin.
Yeah, three of us here. We're recording on Monday night. Got three matches to cover since we last recorded. 4-0 good win against Norwich. 1-3 horrible loss to Man City in the derby in the Cup. And then kind of forgettable 0-0 draw against Wolves in the FA Cup. So proper mixed bag of results there to look at. Obviously the main ones we're going to focus on were that City game and Norwich, which were like two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. We had kind of just flip between them here and there, I guess. But I guess, Colm, you had your Ole Out t-shirt on after the Manchester derby. I think quite a few people might have been considering where they were at after that match, especially the first half. That kind of first half was as bad as we've had the whole season, I'd say.
And even, I think, the second half, there's only so much beating a team you can do, if you know what I mean. Like, City were so dominant that I think you can't, no team could help but take kind of the foot off the pedal a wee bit. I don't think there was much that we did. I thought the scoreline flattered us, massively, and the good goal gives us the slightest glimmer of hope. But it was a footballing lesson, really. They basically did to us what we just did to Norwich, and I'd say the same amount of difference is between the two teams, if you know what I mean. That we just weren't in that game, and the two teams were playing completely different kinds of football, different universe on that evening, anyway.
I wasn't that shocked because when I saw our starting lineup and I saw that basically like the spine of our team was Phil Jones was in centre back, Andreas Pereira was playing centre mid, and then Jesse Lingard was playing number 10 or whatever he's doing there. And I kind of was fearing the worst immediately. It was one time where I've been critical of Ole because I've said myself, whenever it was, a couple of months ago when Pereira played those couple of games of centre mid, that it should never happen again. Because he's just so way out of his depth in that position. And it was I think it was Sheffield United and Villa, and we conceded 3 and 2 goals against hardly the top class opposition. So to have him playing there was really difficult to take, especially when Matic was actually available.
Yeah.
And as far as I think, Matic has actually been playing pretty well while he's come back in. I think it was only 2 months ago, people were saying he's never going to play for the club again. He's fallen out with Ole. He's leaving in the January window. But yeah, like you say, a lot of these rumours come out to be bullshit, and we'll get on to some of the transfer rumour stuff later on in the show. But yeah, he's actually been really good, I think. I'm surprised myself and how good he has been in the last kind of 3 or 4 matches. And yeah, thank God, because we didn't really have many other options. But yeah, I think I don't totally agree with you that just City took the foot off the pedal. I do think Matic coming in at half time made a big difference. Just even if it was just stopping them from just absolutely destroying us and giving us a bit of a chance to then go back at them. But yeah, of course, they're going to sit off a little bit once they're 3-0 up because they're pretty happy with that. But yeah, the one goal does mean that the second leg is at least alive and not completely dead, especially when we do everybody's then talking about PSG comebacks and everything, which have happened. So yeah, there will be that kind of little thing to at least give some hope in that second leg going there. But yeah, a lot of people have said, look, the difference is just the fact that one is Norwich, who are obviously bottom of the league in poor form, and one is City, who are totally the opposite end, and probably maybe you say even in better form than even Liverpool in the last few weeks. But yeah, for me, it comes down to the players who actually played. Because, Maguire came back, Martial did not play against City, came on later. And so yeah, it just shows for me again, like how our squad is weak, that once we lose 2 or 3 players, the ones who are coming in are nowhere near of the standard, and why, yeah, we absolutely desperately in need of backups in this window, basically.
I remember looking at the team sheets for City, and City have their own issues. They haven't got a centre-back at the club, basically.
No, they have a centre-back. He just sucks and they don't play him.
Yeah, exactly. The Guardiola's happy to play. They're playing Fernandinho, one of their best midfielders, is now their best centre back. They seem to change their fullbacks every single week, and they've had an injury crisis there. Mahrez came in and looked unbelievable, and it just shows that their second string is light. I mean, if only we had that depth to pull from, that level of quality who can't get a game. Even Bernardo Silva, I think obviously everyone appreciates his talents now, but he and Gundogan are not regulars for City, not guaranteed starters. And I know Guardiola loves to just rotate everyone for the sake of it, as every fantasy footballer will know. But it's just there's just such a difference in the squads, and the funny thing is the difference in spending over the last 6-7 years, whatever time it would take to compile the both squads is minimal. So it just shows one club's been run on not sadly quite well recently, and one has been run absolutely awfully. But I thought it was odd from Ole, because fair enough, he has an injury crisis. He felt maybe he couldn't play Matic so quickly in the space of certain days, and was maybe looking at fixtures beyond the City game, although I would say a semi-final should rank highly regardless of what competition it's in. But the way he set the team up, we actually came out to play a bit in the first 10 minutes, which was kind of strange to me. Like, we were really trying to go toe-to-toe with City. We weren't sitting in like we have done against the big teams so far this year and kind of really being compact and trying to hit them on the counter. We were absolutely trying to play in the first sort of 10-15 minutes, which we just couldn't in any way, shape or form, and then obviously did leave us open. But City can do that to anyone, really. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, until City scored, and it was an absolute worldie from Bernardo Silva, they hadn't had that much chances, even though, they'd had some more of the ball. But and it's something we've mentioned before, that after we lost that goal, that we seem to fall apart a bit and just let them really come at us. And it's something that's happened again and again in games. And for me, it keeps going back to that, just lacking leaders on the pitch.
But I mean, if there's one team that you don't want to play from behind against, it's City. I mean, their issue this year has been being kind of restricted by tight and compact teams, and then being hit in the counter and stuff. But when they get a lead, I mean, they can quite happily just pass the ball about for fun.
Yeah, I mean, I did say we weren't going to talk too much about that Wolves game, but I think the only thing kind of worth mentioning from it was that it was the game where Maguire got injured. And even though I'm still totally supportive of Ole, the biggest thing I have been critical of has been his kind of squad management. And I'd said even on the last show before that I thought Maguire had to be rested for that game, because he's pointed out that in the stats he's played more minutes this season than any outfield player in the whole Premier League. So for me, that was the game, that Wolves game, where he had to have a rest, and he didn't. And then sod's law, he ends up getting injured, and you end up with Phil Jones in defence. And I feel really sorry for Phil Jones nowadays, because he's a
tragic character. He's just
become this kind of comedy player now. And when he got absolutely ripped by De Bruyne in that game, I felt really bad for him. But I do think that people should remember that he was actually an outstanding talent as a teenager. This was a player that wasn't just Fergie used to talk up. There was like Fabio Capello, who was England manager at the time. Anybody who worked with him, whether it was like Sam Allardyce, were all talking about this is like one of the greatest talents we've got. And he was getting played in defensive midfield, he was playing fullback, he was playing centre-back, and he was doing them all pretty damn well. And really, I just think that he's like a shadow of what he could have been, because he just had one injury after another, and that really it's only because he did have quite a lot of talent that he's even still going at this point in his career. Because really anybody else who's just been shattered in so many different places and throws himself about in so many ridiculous places that he's even still managing to have some kind of career at top level is crazy. But it is a bit sad that he's become a real, I don't know, the novelty character nowadays, Calamity Jones or something like that. And there was even this suggestion that he was coming up for testimonial, but he doesn't even want one because he doesn't think anybody's going to turn up to it.
Which just says it all, doesn't it? Like, I mean, every time I hear that, I die a little inside, and you can't help but feel bad for him now. I don't think anyone, like, we get frustrated with him, obviously, and we hate to see him on the team sheet. And I mean, watching City absolutely rip through him and him just be awful is sad, but it's more sad than frustrating now. I mean, kind of frustrating on Ollie's part that he gets picked, but he's just a sad figure now. It bums me out.
Yeah, like I say, but let's not forget though, it was only last summer, but we are in 2020 now. But summer 2018, he's picked in the England squad who went to that World Cup ahead of Chris Smalling and ahead of a lot of players, which is not that long ago at all. And that's, Gareth Southgate as well, who's a centre-back himself.
But he wasn't even playing for United. He wasn't even consistently playing for United, so why was he picked?
He can only play in this super defensive Mourinho, you don't have to expend any energy kind of setup. And even then he's, a disaster waiting to happen. So I think he just got picked because towards the end of that season, we had a bunch of injuries, and I think he kind of stumbled into being a starting 11 player again.
Stumbled is right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of his. Should be the name of his autobiography.
Stumbled at 90 mile an hour, leading with his face.
But he's just not. He's not a good player.
And the problem for him is now he's at that age now where he's not playing games, and then because he hasn't played games, he gets thrown in, and you can see he's nowhere near up to the standard. So it's that kind of.
I don't think it's about the games. I just don't think he's up to the standard. Because by the time he works himself into some form, he'll get injured. It's a pointless. It's like a fucking circle. Even in that match against City, I thought he had pulled his hamstring. I guess it was just a cramp. But he let the long ball go over him. Then he gets pushed off the ball. He has that whole sequence was some peak Phil Jones experience right there. But Juanzebi's injured.
Yeah, there isn't any other options.
Yeah,
IE and Fosu Mensah both came back midweek for some runouts and might appear soonish.
It takes that level of injury for Ole to okay, fine, I'll play Phil Jones. That's what we're talking about here.
I think the thing to go at Ole is that Phil Jones should have played against Wolves.
Right.
Harry Maguire should have played against City. That's what people are saying. The semi-final outranks the first round of the FA Cup or whatever it is, whatever round we enter in.
Yeah.
And that's it's a rotation injury issue rather than just a being backed into a corner issue, because once you're backed into only being able to play one centre back, it probably hints at the fact that you've made mistakes prior to that point. Regards your squad management.
He's trying to use the squad, I think, as best he can to be competitive.
I think he did make 7 changes for that Wolves game, so there was quite a bit of rotation. But
Greenwood started at striker against Wolves, right?
He rotates his fullbacks and he rotates his forward players, but he hasn't rotated Victor Lindelof and Maguire all season.
Fred doesn't get rotated anymore either.
Yeah, midfield. Yeah, I mean midfield's a slightly
Fred
different
as
thing.
well. It's been certain points where there wasn't any other options,
right.
And I'm sure he would have had a bit of rotation if he had more options. Yeah, I mean those have been the two areas. We had that slight striker crisis at the start of the season, but otherwise it's been centre back and centre mid where we really haven't had that many choices for rotation, unfortunately. But yeah, I totally agree. Jones should have played that FA Cup game, and then maybe Maguire wouldn't have had any issues coming in through there. I mean, we do have this replay. Jones should get a run out in that for sure. Although, yeah, maybe there is even people like Bailly and Fosu Mensah who might come back for that. But yeah, we'll see there. But yeah, as I said, that is one of my major criticisms of Ole, has been this kind of squad management, maybe overplaying certain players. Maguire for sure, McTominay as well, maybe earlier in the season. Rashford as well has had a crazy amount of minutes.
Yeah.
And there is chances to be giving them a bit more rest. So yeah, we'll see how he goes with that.
It seems like he's been smarter with Rashford recently, and Martial also. I think he's been quicker to as soon as we went up 3-0 against Norwich, he took off Rashford.
Yeah. And Dan James is a player that played far too much, and recently he's benched him a few times, and he needs that. And
he looked dead on his feet against City. He looked like he couldn't press or run or anything.
From the first minute he couldn't press City, and it was so obvious, and he's the most willing runner. So when he is physically not tracking back, you've clearly got an issue.
Yeah, it was actually kind of sad to watch that, because you could tell he wanted to go press, but his body just would not respond.
Yeah, he was busted.
Yeah, I mean that City game was another one of these where I'd been really gutted because of work stuff that I wasn't able to make it, but then in the end pretty ecstatic that you've not made the trip all the way there. But yeah, that's the way it goes. But yeah, look, as I said, it's been a week where even though we had that horrendous loss to City, that we then had a great win. I think what is our best win of the season, isn't it?
Here comes the cross. Martial is there. It's his turn this time as Manchester United move in for the kill. 2 quick goals early in the second half to see off Norwich.
It is the perfect team for us. They're a team who are not very good and actually come and play rather than just sit back.
They actually did sit in this time.
They did sit in, but Norwich are so bad at it because they're not,
they're so bad at it.
They haven't got that, physicality or that desire or that good drilling of a Brighton or a Sheffield United to be kind of super motivated. They want to play football, so when they suddenly change tactic and say, "Oh, actually, this time we're going to sit in," the players aren't interested in it, and they're not for it. So they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. I think, and it's one of the big reasons why they're going downtown.
In these 3 matches, Williams has started all 3 matches at left back. Now, I don't know if Shaw is injured or has been injured, or if it's just purely because he's been preferred. I know it's been a kind of discussion on Red Cafe where, there was a thread saying, Williams is now better than Shaw, and there's quite a bit of discussion on that. Some people not necessarily agreeing. I do think Shaw has maybe had a knock somewhere in there, because I can't believe that Ole would start him 3 matches in a row.
He's out of shape. Like, he cannot move. He can't make runs. Okay, like with Wan-Bissaka, when he doesn't make a run going forward, it's frustrating because he has that physical capability and he just doesn't see it. Like, he doesn't think that way. With Shaw, he physically could not do it. Like, if he tried to make that run that Williams made, to get the penalty and then the chance that he skied, he would be done. Like, he would just collapse on the ground and, he would need oxygen. Because there's no way he could do he would not be able to he can't sustain himself. There's so many times he has so much space to drive into, and he doesn't do anything with it.
I don't even know if it's about physical. I know people laugh.
I don't think it's about fitness. I think it's about mentality.
I don't think he would be getting picked in the team if he was really out of shape. I actually think it's more that he's just constantly playing within himself, going for safe options.
Yeah.
Whereas you see the difference when somebody like Williams, who comes in, who's like busting himself to try and get on the end of a cross, who's like, you say, trying to play 1-2s to get up the field. Whereas Shaw, he'll get the ball, he'll have a look, and then he'll turn back, play a 5-yard pass to somebody who's inside. And he's just playing within himself, playing the safe options. And you see the vast difference when Williams comes in. I mean, I will still say that probably, Shaw is probably still more reliable defensively, but he's offering zero on it attacking wise. And for a team like us who are lacking creativity, then it's just not good enough, really.
I think with Luke Shaw, I think you're absolutely right. I'm not saying he's super fit, but I don't think it's just 100% a fitness issue. I agree. I think it's a mentality and a confidence issue. I think he's essentially been broken as a player, for us anyway. I think that's in part due to injuries and fitness, and in another part just due to his career at United not having gone the way he thought it might. And I think him and Phil Jones, there's a real parallel there, and you're starting to see him kind of jump into that decline as well. And I think it's not impossible to understand why that happens to players. Players who have come in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I appreciate Jones was there for longer, but who have experienced this kind of decline of Manchester United and been focal throughout it all. You're talking Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, certainly Shaw was a big money spending, most expensive left back in English football, if not world football, at the time, and it just hasn't worked out. And they've seen 3 or 4 different managers, they've seen different styles of play, but the one common thread that they've seen is just poor teams struggling to perform. And
I mean, the other common thing though is that they've all had injury after injury.
Yeah.
And I think, in general, that is a big part of it, that none of these players have managed to be fit for more than a few months, never managed to get runs of games. So I mean, I think what you're saying is definitely part of it as well. But it's just the injury situation. And we have constantly ended up with just so many injury prone players. I mean, again and again, it's just the same names who come in and out. And and like I say, I think Shaw is actually injured at the moment. Well, he is for sure, because he was on the bench, named on the bench at the start of that Norwich game, and then he even got injured in the warm-up and didn't even make the bench. Chong ended up on the bench instead. So he is actually injured.
The one thing that I would say is that I think Williams is still in the slightly unknown category, but everything he's shown so far has been immensely positive and like a breath of fresh air. And actually the tactical impact it has on our play is huge, just to free up Rashford, to give that threat, that intensity, the headaches he gives opposition defenders by just putting them in physical positions they don't want to be. And I think a growing quality, particularly on his right foot, in terms of his play. He's confident enough to, if he's backed into a corner at left back, he'll actually take a man on and just dribble around him just to free up that space. He seems to have a really good knowledge of what's around him, seems to make the right decision all the time. And yes, it's an extremely small sample size, and he could really plateau and experience the kind of issues that you expect with such a young player, 19 or 20, coming through at such a big club. But surely he's nailed on first choice now. I would lose so much more faith, of which there's very little left, if we were to kind of, I expect Shaw might play if he's fit against Wolves, but for any meaningful game, and any game in the league at this point, it has to be Brandon Williams.
I mean, Shaw did his hamstring, right, in the warm up. So
so I think
he did for a while.
Given that he's not the most in shape human being ever, you would think that would at least be like a week, right? Because you don't want to push him back, obviously, from that. So I would imagine Williams would play against Wolves at the minimum.
Well, I hope he doesn't, because he's played 3 matches in a row.
Well, exactly.
And,
Then
at
who?
that time,
Delo?
yeah, Delo's an option over there. I don't, maybe we'll get onto it a bit later, but yeah, Ashley Young, I don't know if he's an option or not. Apparently,
I don't
he's
think.
not.
Yeah,
But
it seems like he's not.
he wasn't on the squad for Norwich at all. So yeah, there's definitely some talks about his future going on. I mean, just to stick back with the Norwich game, one thing I will say about Williams is that and I totally agree, he's been one of like the highlights of the season, along with Greenwood. Really excited to see him coming through. I'm always slightly reluctant to overhype these youngsters because, in fact, just this week we had Cameron Borthwick-Jackson has come back to the club from his loan at Tranmere Rovers, and if you just think back a few years, it's probably, what was it, Louis van Gaal's season. Borthwick-Jackson had an amazing run of games, looked really great attacking wise.
We all said he was better than Shaw on this podcast.
Well, exactly. Not too dissimilar to Williams at the moment. Everybody was saying, listen, we don't need Shaw. I think Shaw was out injured at the time. He'd broken his leg. And we're saying, look, we don't need Shaw. We've got his replacement. He was looking really great. Then Van Gaal left, Mourinho came in. He's had several terrible loans, basically. And I don't know whether it's his fault or he's been unlucky or what, but it just hasn't happened for him. He had some loans in the Championship that didn't work. Then he had to drop down to League One and still doesn't seem to be getting a game. And I've seen some absolutely rubbish as well on Twitter and Red Cafe where people think that Cameron Borthwick-Jackson has come back to the club to be part of the squad, which I'm absolutely certain he is not.
It's bad, but I don't think it's just quite that bad.
It was the timing, though, right? Because it happened like within the news at least broke a few hours, like within Ashley Young apparently going to Inters. It was just like really, it's hard not to make that joke, right? At least if you're joking.
But then you have to, as an adult, take like 4 seconds to think about it.
Yeah, people are then getting embarrassed about such things. And like the thing is, there's been 2 other players who've come back to the club. There's Ethan Hamilton, there was somebody else as well. And the people whose loans haven't gone that well, so the club bring them back to either send them out somewhere else or say, look, you might as well play in the reserves here rather than sitting on the bench in League One or something. Whereas, anybody who thinks he's actually going to play for us needs to go and have a solid look at themselves.
I mean, the only other thing I would say on Brandon Williams is that regardless of his potential in terms of the football side of things and how it all works out or not, a character like his is just worth having around. I mean, it's no coincidence that he seized his opportunity because his mentality is absolutely awesome. And even that City game where I thought he actually dealt with Sterling, Mahrez, De Bruyne drifting out, Bernardo Silva at different times really quite admirably, even though we were so resolutely made to look like boys against men, basically. I thought he actually came out with the credit, and on I think 2 occasions he tried to absolutely empty Mahrez and Kevin De Bruyne because he was just raging at how the whole game was going, which, to me, there's just so many endearing features of his game at the moment. There was one where he tried to empty, I think it was Mahrez, completely missed him and the ball, and like went flying out the sideline, but like it was fine. Everyone loved it, and like you just need that, and we lack that. The
first half, Pereira, who knows where the fuck he was when he was playing the first half, and it just left him so exposed, right? Like that's. And then you had like Fred trying to cover the entire midfield by himself. So it just didn't work at all. So just having Matic there who like at least is in that space kind of next to him and giving him some support, it gave him that platform, like you said, to get credit for it, just be positive in the second half. And
yeah, I mean, actually, Colm, I do want to ask you a question. Do you not give any credit to Ole for making a change at halftime? Making, tactical and, player change that actually gave a completely different second half and that we actually, won the second half.
You're talking like we were good in the second half?
We were fine in the second half. We weren't good. We dominated them.
We scored a goal. We won the second half 1-0. I know like some people have kind of taken the piss out of this comment. We won the second half. But it's actually true. Yeah,
we won the second half 1-0 when they were already 3-0 up.
We did. It's true. Like, I've had that situation as well where I've been in matches.
I bet in the second half they created more chances and had more possession of the ball.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day,
they'd already scored 3 goals.
That's how we beat them in the first match. They had all the possession, but we still got the goal. That's how we beat them in the first match, right?
I mean, the goal itself, like, it was a good bit of play by Greenwood, but City completely went to sleep on it, and it was a great finish from Marcus, but it wasn't some beautifully crafted goal after a period of possession or play or us being in the game in any way, shape or form. We caused them no problems.
We know against City the goals you're going to get are going to be break goals, and that's the way we did them in the first game, and all right, that's the way it's going to be. But so what, you're giving no credit to Ole?
No, I mean, I give him credit for making the change, but I mean, you're 3-0 down at half time, having been completely exposed by a tactic that has just seen the way you played last time. Guardiola played without a striker overloaded the midfield and completely gazumped us completely. So Ole at that stage was completely outdone, completely beaten. Yes, he had a totally injured squad and probably didn't field the 11 he would have wanted to. But at that stage, I mean, what other change could he possibly make, Nick? And as we've alluded to, the change should have been before the game. He should have picked a different team, basically. Matic should have started.
I do agree with that. But I'm just talking about, we have, the in-game management is something we've talked about before and giving him some stick for. And I'm just saying, look, on this occasion, all right, there was a mistake made before, but he has made the right decision there. And we actually came out and at least gave them a game in the second half.
Totally. And also, I'm buzzing off that Norwich game, so I'll give him credit for that all day long as well. It's a game where we've struggled against small teams. Now, I think Norwich are their own wee thing because they're so bad, but still, we've gone out, put them to the sword. Great. I'm very happy with that, so I'll give him credit there as well. The one thing I do think is interesting, just on the Matic point and regards Ole basically said 2 or 3 months ago, in not so many words, Matic, he's not a player I want here. Basically, he was frozen out. Matic started giving all that kind of paper talk, saying, "Look, I want to go somewhere where
I don't think Ole ever said that himself.
I think it was. I'm not saying he said it.
All newspaper rumors. It was all newspaper rumors.
Yeah, but it was apparent. I mean, Matic is the stuff that was coming out of Matic's camp about him wanting to move on and be valued, and his little Instagram quips and stuff like that. I think it was pretty apparent that he felt that he was just an aging kind of player, Mourinho's player, a player he didn't want, didn't fit in with Ole's new philosophy, that who actually knows what that is, etc. And he didn't play for a good couple of months, even though he was fit. There was little small injuries.
He was injured at some point as well.
There was small injuries we heard about. I'm not convinced that they were anything other than covering for the not being picked, essentially. But now, when he is complete back to the wall, he has to pick him. And you see the quality that Matic can bring when used in certain games. And I think, again, that's maybe... I mean, I was one of the people who was saying, I quite want Matic to go. I still want Matic to go because I don't think we really benefit anything by keeping him. And I don't think he's, a big part of the club's future. But at the same time, you have the squad you have. You chose to go into this season with a severely limited squad. And then you equally alienate or disrupt players who are doing a decent job without managing your squad to the best possible way. And I think he's been proven to be wrong in that regard as well, because Matic has come in and been extremely good.
It's just newspaper rumour and bullshit. I don't think there was ever any issue there. It's all just invented by the newspapers. Matic was injured.
There was an issue, but it's because Matic came out and said he didn't play him in one match, or he said something about the tactics need to be better, right? He said something along those lines. He just came out and said that. He basically threw Ole under the bus, or his tactics under the bus, and whatever. And from that point on, he had mysterious injuries and he didn't feature in the squad. I don't see a problem with that personally. I think that is a good marker to set down, especially since we know at the club there have been issues with players. There's at least been this innuendo that players have too much power and the manager isn't supported. And I think that was a good move. I think that was a necessary move because it showed that Ole isn't just, he gets criticized for all this stupid bullshit. He smiles. He's not he's all he does is smile and make everybody happy. And it's everything.
Did you hear what he said after the City game?
I mean, what do you want him to say though? What do you actually want him to say? Oh yeah, we fucking suck. I mean, he knows that. You think he went in the dressing room and was like, "Great job, boys. Great job. Great performance today. Really happy with it. Take tomorrow off." Of course he didn't say that. But do you want him or do you want Jose moaning every fucking press conference about, I didn't get this guy isn't good, West Ham scouts are better than our scouts? You don't want that either. So at some point you just have to... I'm fine with Ole just basically... I don't care what he says in public because I think what he says in public is 95% just nonsense and not what he's saying behind the scenes. I think behind the scenes, I mean, we know that he has disciplined Lingard. We know that he even approached Lingard again during the season when he's playing like shit. And Lingard apparently had this huge revelation about his personal life issues that's been going on. I think this Matic thing is another example of Ole not being just this easy pushover. And I think it was a necessary move. I have no problem with it. And I think he is taking hits in the short term because he actually does have a long-term vision. Now, whether he is good enough as a manager to deserve to see that out, that's a different matter. But I don't question that decision, and I'm fine with it. And yes, he has had to go back. But Pep did the same thing with Toure, right? And then he had a midfield crisis, then he had to call Toure back into the squad. So this isn't specific to Ole. This happens to great managers. I mean, it's happened to Klopp. There was I think that happened with orgy, right? He was about to leave Liverpool, and then he had to start picking him again.
Yeah, there is always players like that. Players aren't going to be happy if they're not playing. And of course, the one who actually benefited was Fred. Because, at the start of the season, Fred was not playing and Matic was getting the odd game. And then it was actually Fred getting a lot more game time and Matic being on the bench or not even in the squad, which is where he started getting annoyed, I guess, at not getting the game time.
I mean, it could have been when Pereira was played at 6 3 times ahead of him, I would imagine, more so than Fred.
No, but at that point, Matic was injured, definitely. When Pereira was playing those matches, Matic was not available because he wasn't even on the bench. So there's no way that he was not injured in that period. I think there was a period maybe earlier where he might have just been not picked or out of favour or whatever. But at that period when Pereira was playing, Matic wasn't even in training. He wasn't even an option. But yeah, and it's not just Matic. The other old timer who had a great game is Mata, right?
Oh,
He's 2 assists. Mata's had his Weetabix. Yeah, we had this comment in just for the listeners. We had this comment in our WhatsApp group, and Ashwin, our American friend, said, "What's Weetabix?" So yeah, we had to give him an explanation of what Weetabix is. But yeah, best 2 assists for Mata. And I don't know, I was kind of trying to work out what our positions were for that game. Mata almost looked like he had a totally free role to me. I don't know, there's definitely something different going on.
Yeah, and a lot of times it looked like there was 2 up front as well. But then I think that's just Rashford doing what he wants as well. So I think it's quite hard.
I think Rashford just has that freedom to make those kind of striker-ish kind of runs. But I think it's more when because he made that run for the opening goal when Mata was very wide in that position, right? That cross came in from a very wide position. So I think maybe Rashford just saw that Mata was lining up for a cross and took his chance. But the one that I might have read this on a thread in the CAF, but I think somebody brought up how, with Mata, because he does have more of a free roll and he drifts a lot more, Wan-Bissaka actually did get forward more to provide width. And obviously, he didn't do anything fantastic when he got forward, but I think you notice it more. Whereas with when James plays very wide, right? He doesn't really drift inward too much, not until maybe you get into the box. So I think he's maybe just a more difficult. And this isn't to say that it excuses Wan-Bissaka's lack of attacking play. But I think it might just be a thing where he has a little bit more difficulty playing with James, and that's something they need to figure out and work with. But yeah, no, Mata was awesome.
He was excellent, Juan. When we get Juan facing forward, he can pick passes, he can put crosses in. Delighted with him. He's a vital member of the squad, and today I thought we found him more than we've done before when he's played, and we can get him facing forward and create chances for us.
You kind of forget that there was a point in time when he was, truly a special playmaking talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without Pogba, I'd been hoping for more from Mata in this period, and he had a few appearances, and it just seemed like not up to the speed of some certain games. You could see that he was just not physically doing it. But this kind of game against Norwich, where maybe he gets a bit of time, a bit of space, is where you see the quality that a player like that still does have in him when he's got the chance to do it.
I mean, time and space definitely, and playing against a team that aren't physically trying to really get after you, I think obviously makes a huge impact. But also I thought against Norwich, and I've said this before about this particular United team that were such a confidence team, but against Norwich, everyone just came out to play. Maguire looked the best ball playing performance I'd seen from him. I thought Lindelof looked extremely confident and assured in the ball, really choosing to keep it and play the difficult pass and play our way out of trouble when previously we maybe wouldn't or would have just done it quite poorly. Wan-Bissaka was fine. Williams very good. Fred I thought was brilliant. Rashford, Martial actually I thought was quite wasteful in the first half until he got his goal and not really on it, but he was really
I actually thought Martial was pretty poor until he scored. I'd
sort of remarked that as well, but ultimately that's fine if he gets his goal and begins to contribute.
And that goal was the first time he scored this kind of number 9 header.
Well, it was a corner,
we talked
as well,
about Martial.
It was a corner. Surely it's the end of times, probably a sign of the apocalypse that we scored directly from a corner.
Yeah. It has been a long time
I
coming.
was listening to something and said they thought it was the first time since '99 when Ole scored that that's maybe happened. I'm not sure, but like genuinely, that was like, and also for him because he is a good hitter of the ball and he is quite physical when he wants to be, and we've kind of seen that this year in his hold-up play as a number 9 that he actually can really use his strength. And
Hold-up play has been good, but he has lacked those kind of being in the position around the 6-yard box to finish certain chances. And all right, for a corner it's different because everybody's in the box anyway. Yeah. But yeah, it was really great to see him score a header. And as well, didn't Rashford score like a similar headed goal a few weeks ago? Who was it against?
He scored a goal at the back post, a header at the back post.
Yeah, exactly. Was it Newcastle?
Similar to his own goal, the one he tapped in from at his cross. Yeah,
Villa.
And it was like. And he said after the match that, yeah, it's something that we've been practicing with Ole on the pitch is trying to get these headed goals that we just don't get enough of. Yeah. Now, to see 2 of these goals come in quick succession, I hope, Colm, you will give some kind of credit that there is something going on the training ground.
Maybe, yeah, although I will also remark that Norwich have conceded the most goals out of anyone in the league from set pieces, first only to us in second. So, again, I will just temper that enthusiasm that you're trying to run away with there, Nick.
I also find that interesting because like maybe Ole is so focused on like specific individual skills that he loses sight of like the collective, because I do think that it's obvious that he's done good work with our forward players, but it's less clear that there's
anything else.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism of him. Like I support him, but I think that's a fair criticism to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and in talking about those forward players, in this match, Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood all got goals, and now this stat's been doing the rounds that in fact they're not even really our front 3 because Greenwood comes in and out, but Rashford, Martial and Greenwood have scored more goals this season than Mane, Salah and Firmino, which is pretty crazy stat, especially seeing as Martial's been a fair bit injured and Greenwood only plays now and again, whereas the 3 for Liverpool are like playing nearly every match.
Every match in the Champions League versus the Europa League, which is again something to just temper that with, but no, it's a class stat. I think it's unbelievable. It gives you a lot of hope that maybe our forward line isn't as far away as we might think. But I think
it does also say one thing about that we completely lack goals from anywhere else in the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan James got a few earlier in the season.
They have our last 15 goals, I think, in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. But I think one of the things, and I just wanted to pick up on something Ashwin said there, already in this podcast, we've completely fallen into the trap of Ole. And the simple fact of the matter is it's not just about Ole. It's not even close to being just about Ole. And that's kind of something that I think came up a lot after the City game, that actually it's the whole club structure and the whole background staff, and a big part on the players as well, and obviously Ole cops a lot of the blame, and he does deserve that, and the manager's the one thing you can kind of change maybe a bit more easily and a bit more frequently to get that short-term kick or whatever else. But clearly it's not just Ole. He's not just a complete failure or complete success, depending on what way you see the glass, as half empty or half full kind of thing. Whether he is the man or he isn't the man, whether he's doing lots of good work that just is going to pay dividends in the short term or long term, the issues are not just Ole, and that's just something that we immediately slip into so easily as United fans.
Well, no, I've said all season that for me the issues are definitely much bigger, and like for Woodward, for me, is the number one biggest issue. People talk about Woodward and the Glazers, and in fact, this Norwich game was the first time we've seen the kind of match goers at Old Trafford really start sowing some kind of protest. There was a lot of anti-Woodward songs, anti-Glazer songs, and it was the first time this season, really. It's something we've talked about, and there was a lot of Glazer out stuff at the start of the season when people weren't happy with the transfer window. Then there was another kind of spate of it, but nothing had really come in at the matches. Somebody had even called for some kind of protest at the ground, I think, back in August, and nothing happened whatsoever. But it's kind of been building slightly, and I'd been hearing a few things from the few people I know who are like involved in the kind of songs and actually dealing with match going issues. So yeah, it kind of been building, and this was the kind of game where it all came out. And it's good as well that it was a game that we won, because if you lose the game, then you just say, oh, people are just getting upset that we've lost the game, but we've actually played well, won the match. But there was a whole lot of singing going on in the crowd. If did retweet a couple of things on Twitter, you can go and see Woodward definitely getting a lot of the flack there. And one of the reasons, of course, the transfer window's open, but like you say, people are saying they know that these are the reasons, and that is one of the main reasons why the match-going fans are still behind Ole, because they don't blame him for any of it. They see that he's been given a substandard squad where, 6, 7 first-team players left, only 3 came in, and all right, for me, I say people have been a little bit impatient because the transfer window opened just 10 days ago or something, whereas others are going to say, well,
13.
look, we should have had players ready to be coming in on day one. We already knew the squad was weak, so what are we waiting for?
I think it's even more frustrating because you see, you see Liverpool, they're top of the league, their squad is strong, and they already have a player lined up before the window even opens to bring into the squad. I think that adds to the frustration because you're kind of seeing the entire tables turned, right, from the Ferguson years to now, and that's extremely frustrating, and it drives home the inadequacies of everything that's followed Ferguson, and probably that existed structurally during the end kind of his.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So I think it's
middle to end.
Yeah. It's just very obvious, and I have said since the summer, I do think that when the club, they've made all these briefings about how they've revamped the recruitment, and everything is going to be great now. And I do believe that they have revamped that and they take that seriously, and that's fine. But because of the injuries, it's so obvious. And I think, it makes you wonder, we're getting linked now with Bruno, and it seems like that is something that is very good chance of happening. But it's kind of interesting that happened, right after we got our asses kicked by City. And then going into the weekend, all of a sudden there's this Bruno news. And I know it's unlikely that it went from, oh, City kicked our ass, so now we have to buy Bruno. But that's the kind of way it can be perceived. And because you have no credit, in terms of how you're being perceived.
You never get the benefit of the doubt, basically,
and you
because
don't deserve it. You don't
kind of
deserve
shown
it.
that, you don't deserve it. The other thing about that Bruno link is that I find it very hard to imagine that the plan was not to buy him in the summer, to buy him in January. That's not a plan. But for me, whether it was price or whether it was some performance issue, they weren't just 100% happy with him. And obviously we briefed that we weren't happy with how the Portuguese media was leaking everything and kind of trying to drum up interest and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a transfer that has a bit of the Gaitan about it and has kind of shrouded itself in its own little mystique. But the fact that it does look like it's going to happen now, again, points at just an unpreparedness to me.
Yeah, I basically think that the injury situation has forced our hands to go into the market where maybe there was a thing that they were waiting for somebody like Maddison or Grealish. Yeah, but they don't think they can get them now. Because, Maddison's doing well at Leicester. Grealish maybe wants to. Villa don't want to get rid of players because it's their only chance of survival.
They're in a relegation
fight. Exactly. So in the summer you might see somebody like that. I would say that these players probably are our first choices, but the club have realised that we're not going to get them in this window. So they might have thought we can get to summer until, of course, McTominay's out. 2 weeks ago, we thought Paul Pogba's going to be back in the team and that he's going to be playing. But then all of a sudden, he's not going to be available at all. On Boxing Day, McTominay played, Pogba was playing, and it's only a few days later that the whole thing falls apart completely. That, neither of them are then going to be available for the foreseeable future. And then after that, obviously the club have to go and do something. As I say, time and time again, I take absolutely no notice of Twitter transfer rumor stuff. I think it's 99% total bollocks, and it's not just Twitter. Tabloid newspapers have been making up shit for years now. Because look, there's so much smoke and mirrors in these transfer windows. Agents put out fake stories to drum up interest or try and get a better contract for their players. Clubs are briefing something. There's all sorts of rubbish being thrown around.
It's a lot more exciting than watching Wolves versus Manchester United in the FA Cup.
The only time I take any notice of anything, like I always say, this is my standard, is when the BBC report it. And today, the BBC have said that there is talks going on between Manchester United and Sporting. So at that point, I say, all right, this is solid. I'm going with it. So yeah, there is definitely something going on. It seems like the hold-up is that maybe there's going to be a player going the other way. People are talking about Rojo, although I have also seen Pereira mentioned. But yeah,
Well,
I would be surprised.
The Times reported today that it was Paul Hurst, I think. He wrote that the holdup is Sporting want Rojo, but Rojo has an offer in Turkey that'll like treble his wages compared to what he'd get at Sporting. So I think what it sounds like to me is it's a matter of figuring out how to make up the difference between them getting maybe a bigger transfer fee, and then all that stuff. But it to me, it just seems like it's probably likely to happen. Whether we get anybody else,
I have in the know sources that say it is dispatched, signed, sealed, ready to be delivered, will be done.
Oh, ITK.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy.
Yeah, because there is also like quite a big Portuguese game on the weekend, and somebody else I know was Portuguese lad, and he said, "Oh no, I think they'll let him play his final game against Benfica on the weekend, and then he's going to come next week." But yeah, who knows? Yeah,
I'd be really excited to get him, and I'd be delighted, and I do think he probably is our third choice, but I'm fine. Like I know I'm pointed out that it maybe hints that we're not that quite prepared, but also like the market's fluid and it's just not always super straightforward, and at this point I'd still rather have him than not. I mean, I desperately wanted him in the summer. One of the first pods we did, we kind of said, look, 10 is going to be the issue, and obviously it has been, and we all want, I just couldn't for the life of me see how a player coming off that season who you've seen play for Portugal, who seems to fit the pressing system whilst also having that quality from outside the box in terms of passing and particularly shooting, good dribbler. Yes, it's the Portuguese league, you just can't be sure, but for me, for 50-60 million as it was reportedly was, or maybe 70 if you believe the papers, that was the big issue in the summer. To me, we were splitting hairs in such an important area of the pitch that we just were so obviously weak in. And I just couldn't understand it. And all season I've been just sitting going, how would that match have gone if we had Bob Bruno? Not to say he's going to be the white knight savior.
He's younger than Lingard too.
Yeah, he's 25. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a good age profile. It's absolutely grand, and also he's reportedly got an extremely good character. I mean, he's refused bonuses at Sporting because of their financial situation. He signed on for the bigger bumper contract, but kept his wages low to again help them in terms of the issue they've having, where their first team has just been decimated by people leaving basically.
And he stayed. He stayed like even after all that entire
there's a lot of very good reports out of Portugal about his kind of character and his leadership in that regard, and in the same way that I really want Grealish, it makes me really happy that we may get him, because I think we need character at the moment in the squad. It kind of goes back to that Brandon Williams thing, and something that will always put me really firmly in Rashford's corner, because I think he has it too, where you just kind of need people who are happy to muck in and also kind of rise above the pressure that comes with United at the moment in our kind of dodginess at the moment. It's just, you kind of need people like that, and it'd be great to get him in January, but it's still kind of like, well, why is it January and why wasn't it in the summer? But that's just the way it goes. I suppose I'd still rather have him than not.
Yeah, as I say, I think it's probably because he was not the number one choice, but now we've realised that, even if he's number 3 choice, that, we need to get somebody in. And in fact, we didn't mention it, but on that Norwich game, the other person who had been mentioned as maybe a choice number 3 or number 4 was Todd Cantwell.
And Buendia as well, actually.
Yeah, Buendia, I like Buendia.
I agree, yeah.
Cantwell Moore, obviously, the reason he's been mentioned is because he fits that young British whatever. And he's had a really good season. Fantasy managers, I'm sure, will have seen that he's one of the dirt cheap players who's been delivering week in, week out assists and for Pookie and goals here and there. And but maybe he's not anywhere near that level, of course, of like a Grealish or a Maddison that you can really get excited about. But I think he is a player who'll be like, we might keep tabs on for another year or so and see where he goes. Rounding up some of the other transfer stuff, since it is that time of year, Lingard is being linked with a move away. He seems to have linked up with our favourite agent, Mino Raiola, and if anybody wants him, I'm sure we're not going to stand in his way. Again, though, I would like to say about Lingard, like Jones, that I think there's often too much negativity, because again, he's a player who was regularly getting in the England squad. Under Jose, he had pretty good time, scored goals, was assists, but 12 months now, he obviously has been way off form and has not been delivering. So yeah, maybe it is a good time for him to get a fresh start. If anybody's willing to give him one, I'm sure there'll be a queue of United fans ready to drive him wherever he needs to go. But as I say, I always think that things are a bit too negative. And he's a player again who scored some important goals for us in cup finals and things like that in the past. So yeah, people are kind of quick to forget things that players have done for us.
As abject as his stats look, and they are obviously completely abject, there's a lot of good performances within that year, not so much recently at all.
Yeah, under Jose, he did seem to have his best year for us.
But the thing is, I think Lingard's almost been as much hung out to dry by the club as he has let the club down, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because he just shouldn't be in that prominent a role in this United squad, and that's just, I just think that's our feeling, not to replace players with better players kind of thing, to then thrust him in, and then people are wanting so much from Pereira and Lingard when they're just not really good enough. And that's really, it's not necessarily their fault, but at the same time you shouldn't demonize them for it either.
Yeah, I mean, don't demonize him, but I don't think Lingard's been hung out to dry. I think that he's been, I mean, if he had at least had the production, which is not saying much, that Pereira had, then I might agree. Like, I think Pereira is proving to be more of a squad player than Lingard, because look, Lingard he played really well against City, and he played fine against Spurs. But like, other than that, I struggle to think of a single objectively good enough performance from him this entire season.
Don't get me wrong, like, this season's been a complete disaster, a write-off, like, from start to finish, and I would rather have Pereira at this stage as well. If it was keeping one of the two, it would be Pereira all day long for me.
Yeah, it's like I there was a phase where I was like, I think I agreed with you. Like, I was like, Lingard isn't the problem. It's the problem really was that we had never replaced Mata. Like, we needed a good version, right? We needed a better number 10 than Jesse, but we never did it. But like, now he's just lost, every bit of confidence he's had. And
yeah,
he just, at least under Mourinho, there was at least a phase where he would have shots from outside the box. He would try and take guys out. Now he doesn't want to. He's so scared of making a mistake. He looks like, it feels like every time he plays, he like is terrified to look at his Twitter mentions right after the match or something.
I mean, he's always been what I would call like a one-touch player. He always wants to link up and pass people. He doesn't want to hold the ball for very long, except when like there's space in front of him that he can run into very occasionally. But now he's like a one-touch player, but it only goes backwards. That's the big problem. There's not like a pass and move going forward, breaking lines thing. It's just as soon as he gets it, he wants to give it away to the nearest person, likely Fred, who's behind him, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And to me, it is at that irredeemable point, I think. And I think obviously him changing his agent and the rumours we're seeing is a fair indication that he probably feels the same way.
And then the other player, and I know another favourite of yours, Ashwin, Ashley Young, is linked with a move away now. And he wasn't in the squad for Norwich, so there's definitely something going on there, and seems like some kind of terms have been agreed with Inter. And the only thing up in the air is that first it looked like this was some kind of pre-contract and he'd be moving in the summer, but it seems like there's quite a push now for him actually to be leaving immediately.
Does no one else think this is bonkers?
I don't really think that this is a time that we should be weakening our squad, especially we lack experience in this team massively. And I know we had quite arguments in the summer about a lot of players wanted players like Young, a lot of fans wanted players like Young, Mata to be dumped way back in the summer. And I kind of understood that, because there were players who'd kind of not delivered for quite a while now. But I did say back then that, look, you have to have some experienced players around. You can't just go out with young players and kids. You have to have some players around who've won things, because, that kind of mentality and things to see you over the line is important. And that's why I see players like Young, Mata, even Jones, Matic have been kept around, because you can't just go out with, young players here and there every week. Young, for all his faults, and for me, this season he's been all right.
I think he's been good this season.
I think he's been good, yeah.
Well, that's it. When he's playing once in a month, it's okay. The problem last season was he was playing every week and even twice a week. And, we didn't have anybody else. But, when you have somebody like that who's coming in now and again, then, you're okay with it. And you see that experience makes a difference. He does even have some leadership qualities in a kind of area that we're massively lacking. The only issue is that he maybe isn't happy at this point in his career.
And that's kind of thing that I think is really odd. So, like, and when I say bonkers, I don't mean like from the point of view of us letting him go because we need him. I mean just that this whole situation has arisen, because I think a lot of people are kind of missing this. He's our club captain. Like, he's supposed to be the person on the pitch or in the squad who's in charge, who's leading, and he is that person. Like, he's very like passionate on the pitch. You see, he gets really involved. He's always chatting to every player. When we score a goal, he's always kind of giving those little debriefs and geeing up the kind of younger players, and always interviews really well. Allegedly is extremely good in the dressing room and all that kind of stuff. And he's played a decent amount of minutes this year. Like, for his, you know, I mean, Ashley Young from the day and hour he got here has always been a stand-in guy. Like, he's never nailed down a spot for himself, except maybe like in his first season on the left wing a wee bit, but he's never really been that guy. At fullback, he then rediscovered a wee bit more joy during other issues, but he's always been the stopgap, and he's always been okay with that, you know, throughout his whole career here, essentially. I mean, I think he always felt that he was punching above his weight slightly, and that, you know, just being at United in a successful team was a great thing. And he's maintained that through Van Gaal, through Mourinho, through Moyes, whatever else, and now Ole. And now, when he's probably, you know, playing as much as could be expected at his age, I think he's been very good, particularly when on the right this year, when filling in for Wan-Bissaka when he hasn't been available or been rested and stuff like that. When he's, you know, earning well, whatever, when he's club captain, now he decides that he absolutely has to go in January of all times, you know, like,
It's
when
really
he has
weird.
quite a significant role in this team, in this squad. To me, it's mad. And he, you know, he previously seems to have had a decent relationship with Solskjaer, you know, sort of, you can see them on the pitch hugging and talking and all that kind of stuff. And it just makes me wonder, has something been said, you know, why he just suddenly feels like now in January he has to go. And I don't know if
Listen,
it's maybe...
for me, right, it's nothing to do with Solskjaer, right? This all goes back to Woodward, and it all goes back to the problems that we say higher up than Ole. Because, you know, we've heard from certain players before, Herrera, Evra, that when it came to contract renewal time, they were really pissed off at how the club dealt with things. Both of those players came out. Herrera said, listen, the club didn't offer me anything until PSG were talking to me, and then they all of a sudden wanted to keep me, and it was too late. And I think exactly the same thing has happened. Ashley Young's contract is up in the summer. The club think that, oh, you know, he's going to be desperate to take anything we give him. We're going to chill over here. And then, you know, somebody else has come to talk to him, given him an offer. And he said, yeah, well, look, why do you expect me to wait for you? Evra as well has come out and said similar things. And I'm sure, again, it's like the team who deal with contract negotiations, who've made a total mess of things, have let a player get to 6 months left, offer them nothing. Then all of a sudden, when they're told that, oh, you know what, I've got an offer from Inter Milan, they've obviously given him some kind of offer, because Ole said to Woodward, no, what, I don't want to lose him. I need this player.
Yeah.
And then, but, you know, it's too late at that point.
I think that's quite possibly very, very accurate. I just think it's mad, and I'm sure he sees Smalling at Roma, who he probably speaks to and says, look, Italy's great, you know, United is not to be all and end all anymore, you know, and you only have a certain amount of years left. He'd be going to a team that we just seem to be sending all our difficult players to, and that's great. And like, I wouldn't begrudge him, but I just think it's mad, you know. I mean, there's talk of like Xhaka going to Wolfsburg, I think it was, after all that fallout with Arsenal fans, and it's just so mad to lose your club captain in January. You know, and I'm not saying there's been a fallout or anything like that. Obviously, I think what you're saying is probably bang on, that he just doesn't feel valued and wants to have a last goal.
If Ashley Young had come to them, look, I have this offer from Inter, so I'm leaving after this year, right? Then, or if he comes to you and says, I want to leave now, you're like, well, we can't sell you now. You can go at the end of the year, but we can't sell you now. But instead, their reaction was to like offer him a contract again, and then he turned them down because he's like, fuck you, I have a deal, I don't want to be here now. But like, I just think that part of it is the problem. Like, once he tells you he has a deal and he wants to leave in January, you can say, sorry, but no chance. Like, manager needs you and you have a contract. We just want you to stay out for the rest of the contract, and then best of luck. But to handle it the way they have is just terrible all around, because it's like, you clearly didn't really want to have this guy.
Well, no, I think everyone knows that if Ashley Young said, hey guys, I'm away at the end of the year, everyone would be like, sweet Ashley, cheers for your help.
Right.
You know, take it easy, bro. You know, and I think that would be, you know, like fans, the club, everyone would probably be very happy with that. It is just the fact that it's just come out of nowhere, you know, and the position he holds within the club, rightly or wrongly. I mean, I know some people just can't countenance the fact that he is our club captain, but he is. Just to have that pop up randomly a week before January, and then, you know, be in the midst of this where he's now not making match day squads because he's, you know, basically on strike or whatever. You know, it's just so Manchester United. in the Glazer era, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, totally. And as I say, there is definitely massive failures in whoever deals with contracts and renewals, because, it's been said by players who've left and have totally pointed to it. And, as I say, it goes back to those issues we talk about, how things are not right above Ole, who people who are making these decisions really need to sort themselves out. And again, it's becoming a problem.
Now, Paul Tierney blows his whistle. And these two will meet again. Nuno Espirito Santo and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer share a handshake and a smile. Neither of them through to the fourth round of the Emirates FA Cup, and neither of them out.
It's a game that I really didn't want. I've been pretty open myself that I would have preferred to lose against Wolves than draw, because for me a replay was literally the worst case scenario.
But what about now?
Well, now I'd prefer to win this game since we've got the game. Yeah, I want to win it, and I'm pretty sure Wolves equally don't want this game, and it's going to be a battle to see who puts out the weaker team on Wednesday night. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, because we're playing at home, you kind of... That's why when we played away to Wolves, it's the perfect option to play a really weak team. Because when you're playing at home, you never really want to put out a really bad team. Because, there's a lot of fans coming, paying a lot of money to come and watch it. So you still have to put some kind of decent team out there. There's going to be absolutely tons of tickets available for this match. I know I've been seeing it, some of the threads going around, and people are desperate to try and be getting rid of tickets. So, it's just an unfortunate situation with that short kind of notice and so many games in this period. Everybody should, whoever's ready to play. I think Jones, Bailly, Fosu, Mensah, I hope to see all of these kind of guys get a game, and I still
should get a run out.
Maybe, yeah. Look, like I say, anybody who needs minutes, and I still think we might have a stronger team than Wolves, even if we put all these out. Look, like I say, I would, now that the game's there, obviously I want to win it.
Well, as well, Wolves put us out of the FA Cup last year. I think this is like... I really want to go through, so I would want to see as strong a team as we feel for Liverpool, because what's that Liverpool game like? What's the expectation there?
No, but look, as strong a team as we play against Liverpool? No way! Come on, we're in the league.
Maguire's going to take pain injections to play against Wolves.
Yeah, look, we're still in the league. We're still not far off fourth place. We're playing well in the big games. For me, that's a pretty crazy thing to say. I would absolutely play a solid reserve team against Wolves, but still think that we can go through, because I'm expecting them to play a very weak team. And look, this Liverpool game, even if it's absolutely meaningless, that Liverpool at home is the game. Away is the game. And I don't see why we can't be the ones who come and beat them and stop that bloody Invincibles.
You can't see any reason why.
Look, I know that we're not going to be favourites, but we have done well in the big games, and it's especially these kind of games. I've seen it.
Yeah.
If we flip it, right, I can remember years and years where we were absolutely dominating, top of the league by far. Liverpool were nowhere, and they still came and beat us because it was bigger for them than for us at the time. We didn't need that win, and it's the same right now. Liverpool, they're still going to win the league.
So are you going to put a tenner on it?
I'm not ready to put any money on it, but yeah.
I actually thought Spurs were going to be the team to beat them just before they got that record. Because anytime there's a thing like that and you get right up to the precipice of it, that's just when Jose Mourinho comes in and just does a number on you, even though they're absolutely awful, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And I could see the same thing happening next week with us, that we just, even though we absolutely have no right to it and will be probably awful and defend for 80 minutes with 0% possession, we'll just nick a win because football.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, some of these things have that poetic kind of way of coming through. And it's only because I've seen for years and years in those times when we were dominating and the tables were turned, and we still lost to Liverpool often, even though they were nowhere at that time.
Although because in those days though, we lost everyone but still won the league. Do you know what I mean? It was just different then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. It was different times.
You just go to Leeds and get beat for no apparent reason other than you were playing at Allen Road. Do you know what I mean? Mark Viduka just scored a brace and you were crap. And yet we all still love Fergie all the time because at the end of the year we were winning, But it's just different now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is different. And as well, I've had this conversation with a few people. People start, let's just say this, people start talking about this being the, City as well were talked about, and Liverpool now are the best Premier League teams ever. And I would just say that I hope people remember that we won the treble, we won back-to-back doubles, we won 3 Premier League titles in a row, and neither of those teams have done anything like that so far. So until any of these records that we've done are broken, broken, then I say all this bullshit about this is the best Premier team ever, whatever. Nowhere near. Like I say, come back to me when any of them have done the treble, back-to-back doubles, or 3 in a row. Then, yeah, we'll start thinking about it. Yeah, because I see a lot of talk about this now, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous compared to what our teams did back then.
Old man yells at cloud.
Are you off the soapbox?
Yeah, I'm off the soapbox now. But yeah, look. So what, Ashwin? You're not confident going to Anfield, then, eh?
I mean, not especially. I think Liverpool is just. I mean, I think they're. It's hard to imagine us getting points from this, but I mean that's fine. Like it's kind of a free hit in that sense. If you lose,
don't forget we were actually the closest to beating them earlier this season. 5 minutes away.
Only team to take points off them.
Yeah, we're the only team to take points off them. Stranger things have happened. If we had McTominay, I would actually feel much better. But I think this is a match where like Matic's immobility is it's a problem. It's a really, really big problem against a team that has this much movement, this much energy, athleticism.
Don't worry about it. He's going to play Prayer at 6.
Maybe this will be the Garner match.
Well, yeah, Garner, hopefully he'll play against Wolves. Like I say, for me, it's ready for a full reserve team and, yeah, get ready for Anfield. But what, Colm, you'd prefer we went a bit stronger in the FA Cup?
Just a wee bit. I just really want to win that tie. I think it's important we stay in cup competitions.
I want to beat
Wolves. A lot of games in a small squad, so it's kind of counterintuitive. But, like, the FA Cup's a proper... I mean... I'm pretty much resigned to going out of the Carabao Cup. So
that is one thing that changed my perspective slightly, because at the time I said it, we were playing Wolves and we had City's semi-final, hadn't been played yet. So I said, listen, I don't care about this FA Cup game and we should be all in.
Because it was beside the cup game against City, you were like, well, no, like focus on City, obviously.
Exactly. I said, look, we're already in the semi-final there. We should be all in on this one and just forget that.
And that's kind of what I meant in that. What I meant is, what do you think now? Because it's different now.
Yeah, it's true now. Now you're like semi-resigned to going out of the Carabao. All right, look, there's still a small chance. So yeah, maybe. No, I think I do actually see where you're coming from. That all of a sudden that FA Cup game now takes a bit more importance. But I still would be playing as many fringe players as possible, because I think we can still win that game, because I expect Wolves to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also there's potential for egg on your face there as well. You know, it's a gamble at the end of the day. But like that's the schedule that we have at the moment with the squad we have at the moment. I mean, I think we've talked and criticised Ole for his squad management, but it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't at a certain point as well. You can, a lot of times we look back at it with hindsight and say, oh, would have played him there and would have played him there. And it's easy to say that when a player gets injured, you know what I mean? And then you go, oh, we should have rested him last game and then he wouldn't have got injured this game. Or you should have not played him that game and he wouldn't have got injured. It's very captain hindsight, you know what I mean? So, like, the squad is the way the squad is. The injuries are what the injuries are. And the schedule is pretty horrendously unforgiving, particularly with Europa, 2 cup competitions and the league. I mean, there's just no great way to navigate that, I think, for even a big healthy squad. But yeah, I just want to beat Wolves. I hate Wolves. They've been such a bogey team for us lately, and they always do it with like ease, make us look so average and like do a number on us kind of thing. And they put us out of the FA Cup last year, and I just think we should go and smash them. And then, like, you know what, Liverpool's Liverpool. The team will get themselves up for the Liverpool game regardless, I would hope. Do you know what I mean? So it'd only be injuries you're really worried about. I know it's a lot of fixtures in a short amount of time, but he's already gone. He's already played these players 3 times in a week, and had varied results. So I don't think he can't put out the same team on Wednesday that he plays on. Is Liverpool Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
Yeah. So I don't think it's like it would be super demanding, or it would really like destroy us in the last 20 or 30 minutes against Liverpool, because the fact of the matter is Liverpool will absolutely destroy us in the last 20 or 30 minutes against Liverpool, even if our team are totally fit and healthy and have had like a week's rest, because it's just the way you're going to be at Liverpool. It's going to be a adrenaline game where you either have something to hold on to or you're getting absolutely pasted like we did against City, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, no, look, let's see how it goes now, and I'm sure we'll come back after that Liverpool game, see where we're at. Like I say, it's still one of the big games of the season, regardless
Bruno's debut
of how far.
hat-trick.
Hey?
Bruno's debut hat-trick.
I'd be surprised if we see him by then, but yeah, look, we should expect some kind of news in the next few days on that one. I think you might get Ed's going to try and do one of his opposition podcasts as well with his Liverpool mate, so that might come out at some point. But yeah, we will see you after that game, hopefully with some kind of transfer news as well. Quick reminder that if you're listening on Apple, please do give us a review and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of thing. And apart from that, it's good night from me.
Cheerio.
Good night.